So this week in comic books and books, again, it's a short week. We're getting into vacation season, but we have Star Wars Ahsoka is a thing in the comic books as well, apparently. DC is stuck on repeat with their storylines, and also a new Batman book that sounds a little overly contrived, but yeah, we'll get into it. So we have no follow-ups, corrections, or trailers to talk about. We just have comic books to talk about. Hello, nerds, and welcome to this week's episode of The News as it pertains to comic books and books. No discussion of current storylines, story arcs, or any of those kind of details is going to happen here per se. I am, after all, a one-man organization and can't read every book that comes out and report on it and any of the news therein. But we can talk about new announcements and major changes as they pertain to any of the publishers that we follow, or just generally nerdy literary information in that sense. So let's get into all of that, shall we? And also, if you dig what's going on here, there is a much more up-to-date and possibly relevant, because it takes a second to get these sections posted up, so probably much more up-to-date version of the news in long form I like to call The Week in Nerddom over on the main channel, which you can find linked in the description as well as at the end of this video. That show covers many more points of interest in the nerd community, in the pop culture community at large, and so definitely go check that out. Now let's get into all of those literary notes, shall we? The first one is that Ahsoka book, Star Wars Ahsoka. They are retelling the same story we got in the TV show. Is this a thing that was really needed? I will be very surprised if this does well enough to make it into the second season of the comic book. Like, that's just a little ridiculous. I mean, that was really why I wanted to put this one in today's episode, is because, like, did you want this to happen? Is this something that they have you in mind for? Please elaborate as to why that is in the comment section. But otherwise, this just seems like more nonsense that's not going to do anything to put them into the green. All right, so the next piece that we have from there is Starman. James Robinson and Tony Harris are reportedly both returning to their Starman series from the Black Label for DC. Remember, Black Label is kind of an Elseworld situation that they can tell more mature-oriented stories that would be more for adult reading rather than children. So yeah, Starman's coming back. New miniseries will bring back Jack Knight, the character that both James Robinson and Tony Harris created in the 90s. The project will be part of DC's Mature Readers line, which again is kind of sounding like they're starting to get it, but I don't know that that's 100% accurate. We'll get to that in just a second. But yeah, DC's Mature Readers line is expected to be announced officially at Comic-Con in San Diego in just a few weeks. So yeah, original Starman, the end of the run was 2001, so we're looking at 23 years since this was a book. From there, let's talk about DC doing stupid DC things with this Absolute Power book. The arc that's going on right now, once again, Absolute Power, and it's more rehashing of stories we've been hearing since the 80s. This is the Justice League losing their powers. Sure, it's a slightly different way to take their powers from them, because because this time they're using Amazo bots in order to take the powers away from the superheroes. Just an interesting, weird situation. This one sounds like it might just be weird enough and also still familiar enough that it might help with sales, but I don't think it's going to help much or for very long. So there you go. From there, we have one more book to talk about. It is Batman Full Moon. The next Batman Black Label book is going to be Batman fighting a werewolf in Gotham. Like, that is really how this one bakes down. That just anything beyond that is contrivance. Like, anything beyond that is just overly complicating the situation. This is something that Batman has done before. Granted, I'm pretty sure that was in like the 80s when we had those team ups. But still, still, like, this is still rehashing stories that we've been told since the 80s, and I can't get behind it, man. So yeah, that's what we got for news. Let's talk about our suggestion for the week. This one was an interesting suggestion, honestly, when I got to that point. It is The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy from Douglas Adams. Get the big, giant one that has the entire story. Don't want to buy it piecemeal like it was originally released. Get the one where it's all together. I think that's the one that most places carry anymore. That is, A Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy is a nerd classic. Like, just if you've never at least seen the most recent movie, because I believe there's 2 or maybe even 3 movies based on the book at this point. If you've never seen the movies, read the book first, because obviously they cut out a lot for the movie, but the book is fantastic. Douglas Adams is fantastic. And 42. That brings us to the end of the video, nerds. Thank you very much for joining me for the news. Once again, there is a full and probably much more up-to-date and recent episode of the news, the full-length version, if you will, called The Week in Nerddom over on the main channel, linked down in the description, and probably link popping up somewhere around my face right about now. So click on that, go check that out as well, or if you prefer your news in more truncated pieces, then by all means just stick around here and go check out some of the other stuff we offer on this channel. Thank you very much for joining me. We will see you in the next one. Before we go, always remember, nerds, that if it is generally nerdy, it's probably here.